Hi there, Dr. Andrea Shanowski from Health and Horsepower. I am here this week to talk to you about 3 ways to get fever temperatures under control at home so you can avoid having to go to urgent care or potentially stay out of the ER if you can keep that temperature under control. So it's very important to understand that when kids are sick, it can be very scary if you don't know what's going on or what you should be doing at home to keep things under control and keep your kids as healthy and as comfortable as possible. So what I want to do is talk a little bit more about how to take a temperature properly, as well as how and when to use fever reducers. I also want to talk a little bit more about things you should be doing at home when your child has a fever to help them recover faster. And I also want to talk about when it is time to actually call the doctor or take your kiddo to the ER. Again, I know sometimes numbers on the thermometer can be scary, so I want to cover those a little bit more in detail. I'm going to use a couple different resources, one from the American Association of Pediatrics, and I also want to utilize some great numbers and great table breakdown. This one is actually from the National Center on Early Childhood Health and Wellness, which I think is really wonderful. So it's very important to understand when your child is sick or showing signs of illness, you need to be up to speed on what you should be doing. So if your child is suffering from a fever, we need to, number one, figure out what is the best way to take that. When kids are under 3 years old, typically the most difficult but the most accurate way to take a temperature is rectally. So that means you're going to use a thermometer in the rectum and through the anus to basically take the temperature to see what it's at. So typically rectal temperatures are going to be a little bit higher. So if you have a child and you're taking a temperature rectally, if that temperature is at 101 or higher, that's going to indicate there is a fever. Now, when it comes to oral thermometer use, typically that's going to be best for kiddos that you cannot get a rectal temperature on, or for kiddos that are a little bit older and you're getting a temperature. Anytime you see a temperature of 100 degrees or more, that indicates that there's a fever going on. Now, fever has a time and a place. Fever means your child's immune system or your body's immune system is actually raising your body's temperature to make it uncomfortable and not hospitable for bacteria and foreign invaders to live. So your body is literally raising the temperatures so that it's more liable, more able to fight off infection, fight off any bacteria, any viruses, to help your body work better and your immune system to work better. However, when temperatures get too high, there are some dangers involved. When temperatures get to 105 to 107, that can actually denature proteins inside of the brain and cause serious and irreversible damage. So it's very important to understand that we do not ever want temperatures to get to 104 or higher or get there repeatedly. So if we have a child's temperature at 104, that is immediate. We need to get temperature down as quickly as possible. If you've already done fever reducers and the child is not responding, that is immediate medical care. You need to be going to the ER, prompt care, get that taken care of. We need to get that fever down. It's very important. So number one thing you need to be working on is making sure we're taking their temperature, like I said, every 4 hours. If you give a fever reducer, it typically takes about half an hour to an hour for that to kick in. And typically after 2 hours, that can lower their fever temperature by 2 to 3 degrees. So we want to make sure we're ahead of that 104 temperature. If we get to 104 and you haven't done a fever reducer, we need immediate temperature reduction. So typically what I recommend is anytime baby has a fever, as it's starting to get up there 102, 103, 104, you want to do cool cloths on their forehead, on the back of their neck, on the top of their chest. You also want to make sure they have thinner clothing on. So if they have a big, thick fleece sleeper on, get that off, get all the blankets off them. You want them to be lying with thinner clothing on so that they're not getting overheated and keeping heat in. You want to make sure you're using cool cloths, like I said, on the chest, on the back of the neck, on the top of the head. If they have socks on, you can also get the socks off, and you can even put like a cold cloth on their feet. Another thing you can do, since we need to get core body temperature down quickly, you can also put an ice pack and put like a cloth or like a hand towel on top of it. Have them lay on the hand towel as you're doing the other cold cloths, because again, we need to get that temperature down. And ideally, we want to try not to use fever reducers. So very important to make sure you're taking that temperature. temperature. If it is starting to rise, or they're not showing any signs of improving where their body's not fighting it off, you want to try to lower their temperature as quickly as possible. Like I said, ice packs, cold cloths, lighter clothing. We want to try to get the heat off as much as possible. Lots and lots of fluids. So any way we can get fluids in, that's the way we're going to do it. Whether it is through water or Gatorade or Pedialyte or popsicles or tea or soup, whatever it is, we want lots of liquids coming in, because when you have a fever, you're going to dehydrate much faster. Now, with kiddos, if we have dry mouth, if we have sunken soft spots or sunken areas around the eye, that can indicate signs of dehydration. If they have been vomiting or have diarrhea or are just not willing to drink, you may need to take them into the ER or prompt care and have them give them some IV fluid so that that dehydration doesn't cause further medical issues. Talk a little bit more about kind of when to seek out medical attention. So if your child is unusually drowsy or looks very ill and is acting very ill, they're staying in bed, they're not getting up, they're not playing, and it seems out of the ordinary, you may need to get them checked out to make sure there's nothing else going on. Like I said, normally I give about 24 hours or so unless there's other signs. So feeling ill, wanting to sleep, kind of being listless and wanting to lay in bed rather than play are all signs that child is sick. Now, if they have a fever and they're running around like crazy and, not stopping and playing, most likely their body's fighting it off really good. But if they are being very listless and it's been a while, you definitely want to talk to their pediatrician, your doctor, go to prompt care, get that checked out a little bit more thoroughly. If they are being very fussy or they're complaining of a stiff neck or a severe headache, if they have a sore throat, if they have ear pain, or if they have an unexplained rash on their body, they're also all signs of viral or sometimes even bacterial infections that need further care. Another thing is if they're vomiting and they have diarrhea and they're not able to keep anything down and they're starting to show signs of dehydration. Again, for dehydration, we want to look for dry mouth, sunken soft spots or sunken areas around the eyes. If they have fewer wet diapers and aren't using the bathroom, or if they've not been taking in fluids, those are all signs that we possibly could have dehydration and might need IV fluids or some help from a doctor's office and from medical care. If they have been in a very hot place like a hot car, or if they have had a seizure, it is very important that you get the medical care immediately. But